You're only born with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And as we get older, the first fear is fear of failure, second is fear of rejection, third fear of public speaking, fourth fear of death. Even if you turn up at 100%, your team will only ever be 70% of you. There's a 30% transmission gap between the two. So if you want your team to be 100%, you've got to rock up as the 143%. And Google's Google. They hire the best.
Yeah.
And they looked at 310 of their teams. And some of them were good, but some of them were outstanding. Like, what makes them? And so they did this study over 2 years, and they thought it was going to be talent, experience, all of this. And what it was.
So today's guest built a school from nothing and ran it over a decade. Then she walked away from it all, and now she helps leaders do the one thing that she says separates good from great, and apparently it has. Today's guest is Penny Ford. So Penny, welcome to Working On It.
Oh, lovely to be here, Bradley. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, we're a Disney superstar now. So, in good company. So the first question is, you spent a decade shaping 5-year-olds. So how do you go from that to shape senior leaders?
Senior leaders. So the school ranges from 2 to 11-year-olds. And I still have the school. It's not that I've walked away completely. But what that gave me when I founded the school, and I was part of a team, we founded that, I realised actually I'm an entrepreneur, and it was building that team and building the brand, building the reputation, realising what a difference you can make to your community and the impact and the people you serve. And even when you handpick absolutely brilliant people, there's always another level. And how can you get that out of people? And when we managed to get that out of my team at school and continue to do that, I was like, I've got to share this. This is a magic sauce. We've got to share it with the world. Yeah. So it's that, I wanted to have huge impact, not just in the area that I lived, but worldwide. I felt that there was something in me that needed to go and do that.
That's pretty impressive.
You think?
You're joking. Like to have, because so many people are let's say pressed by or compressed by their current situation. They think that, okay, I'm in a school, let's just say, use it for example, in a school, I'm a teacher or whatever it is at that point. This is my world. This is my maximum capability. But for you to see beyond that, I think is pretty impressive because so many people don't have that vision. And I guess that imagination to kind of think that big.
I believe that, we're all the same. Like, we've all been born, we've all been kids, we've all sat in that school hall. Every single person has looked up at a head teacher, and you don't know what those children are going to become. And we've all been children. So what makes people do that? It's literally yourself. It's the limits that we put on ourselves. And, a lot of credit goes to my business partner, Dr. Mahmood Mauji, who I founded Brilliant Beyond Belief with. Because when I met him, I had opened a school from scratch. I was on the board for the Independent Schools Association, which is an association that at the time looked after about 500 schools worldwide. It's now got just shy of 900. But I knew there was more in me, and I heard him speak, and it was that, when you have that feeling.
Ignited something within,
I
get what you mean.
And someone had said to me at school, Penny, you've made it. You're going to be here till you retire. I was 35 years old. That couldn't be my life. It's literally die at 35, buried at 80. There had to be, how do you make your next chapter even better than your last when you've done something that people around you didn't think was possible already? And it was, I can remember I used to sit on those board meetings with the ISA, and I'd not speak. And I'd been voted to be there. And there was 12, a number of head teachers around the table representing the country. And I'd go there and I was surrounded by brilliant people, but, middle-aged, white, middle class, all been to Oxford, Cambridge. And I'd had my first child when I was very young, and I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder, and I didn't really feel that I belonged. And I felt that I'd almost made my school and made myself the head. I hadn't earned it. So it was a big limiting belief around me. And when I met Mahmood, he was like, Penny, you opened a school from scratch. Like, people would dream of doing that, and you did it. Start talking about it. And that's what I started to do. I started sharing my story. And those head teachers started asking me, could you help me with my school? And it just expanded and expanded. And that's when Mahmood said, you're really good, let's do something together. That's when we founded Brilliant Beyond Belief back in 2020. So, yeah, that was it. And I believe everybody needs somebody to pull it out of them, because it's in everyone. In this country, it's in everyone. We've got so much potential here. Around the world, I don't think everyone's... not everyone's as privileged as we are. But we have. Like, if you want something here... Sometimes. Yeah, we so do.
There was two things on that. So you mentioned about you were 35 and you realised that perhaps this isn't just me. This is not everything that I'm lived up to be. And there was a great saying that I heard on a course that I went to last year, and it was... this could apply to anybody at any age. It's like the rest of your life is the best of your life.
Love that.
And I think you probably realised that. Okay, I'm come this far, but I haven't come this far to only come this far. I'm going to be going on to something greater. But just now you said that you were on that board of 12 people and you earned your place there, rightly so. But even then you didn't think you believed, but is it Mahmood?
Yeah.
He saw that in you. And even then you questioned his belief in you. Yeah. But at the very start, I said to you, "Cool, well, worldwide, that's amazing." You're like, "Is it really?"
You don't
even though you've come so far, you still have that. But I mean, that's great though, because you're constantly pushing the boundaries, which I think it's good to have that limiting belief. But as long as you just break through that glass ceiling,
yeah, I think you're staying humble and celebrating the wins, but not staying there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just stagnate. And that in life there's an S curve, and you have that initiation, acceleration, and plateau, and we hit those plateaus very quickly. We need to stretch that S curve so that we might never, ever hit that goal, but it's who we become along the way. And that's a big part of what we do.
There was a book I read recently, and it was like North Star Thinking by Will Polston. Really good book. I recommend it. And in it, he said, your North Star should be like emptying the sea with a soup spoon. Like, it's almost like you quite possibly never reach it, but it just is always there to keep you going. And I think that's probably yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're kind of jumping ahead, but what is your North Star?
So my North Star is to impact as many individuals as possible. The quickest way for us to do that is through organisations and teams, but it's to give people the skills and understand that we're all in charge of us. And in our brain, there's two, you'll know this, but there's two main parts. You've got your amygdala and you've got your prefrontal cortex. And a lot of the time the amygdala is winning and it's keeping us safe, because back in the day it was stopping us from getting eaten. Yeah, in today's world, that might be going for that new career move. It might be having that difficult conversation. It might be going into a new market with your business. But we're like, oh no, it might fail. It might go wrong. What will people think? And we go back into our comfort zone. So how do we teach everybody that it's down to you? You can switch off the amygdala and fire up the prefrontal cortex and find solutions and innovation and creativity. And in a world that's changing so quickly, the businesses and the people that are going to be hugely successful are those that are finding the new ways and creative ways. And they might make mistakes, and great, they'll learn from it. But that's that mentality, and we need to be giving that to all of our children and to all of our leaders, so that they can then mentor and coach the next bench as they come through every single organisation.
I think that's really good, the fact that you've broken it down to that, just a simple part of that two areas of the brain. Even something, actually, I was speaking to someone this morning, and so that same safety net of what others might think, even it could be something as simple as making your first social media post. If you're trying to build a personal brand or a company, it's just even something like that. It tends to go back to what would others think, but it's having that confidence of saying, I'm going to go for it, and if I fail, fine, I'm going to go for it again. And it's just that constant, reminder, isn't it, of always going forward, and failure is a good thing, as long as you learn from it.
It's the biggest fear, isn't it? It's fear of failure and then fear of rejection.
Yeah.
But we're going to get judged anyway, so we might as well get judged on giving it out.
Might as well add a bit of narrative towards it.
Always.
So it's really funny you focus on, let's say, like children, small adults or younger adults, because so I've got a son. He's 15 and he loves basketball, and the teachers and we did up to about a year ago. We said, "Oh, what are you going to do? You've probably got to start thinking about some other things." He goes, "No, I'm going to be playing in the NBA," and it was just a given. There was no plan B. It was just, no, I'm going to be training 6 days a week. I'm going to be doing it. He had the entire thing mapped out. And he goes, and when I'm 16, I'm going to get a Euro contract, and I'm going to eventually go to America. I'm going to play for NBA. And I then had a catch up with one of his teachers more recently, and he said, look, Mr. Staines, you've got to be thinking about, Algie's got to be thinking about other routes. And I was like, what did he say to you? He goes, apparently he's playing for the NBA. I said, well, who am I to dismantle that? I said, fine. I said, if he's only got plan A, let him stick with plan A. I said, at the end of the day, in today's world, you could know nothing and know everything in a second. I said, so why let him, if he's playing for the NBA, who are we to shatter that? So it's crazy, but they don't have that, what will others think? It's almost like, I'm doing this, that's it. It's as clear as day. Like, he had it all mapped out. It's as clear as day. He knows exactly what it's doing. But what's quite amazing is the fact that I think as you get older, that defence mechanism just kind of comes in. Do you find that at all with people from the young ages up to the adult?
You're only born with two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. They are the only fears we're born with. Every other fear is learnt. And as we get older, the first fear is fear of failure, second is fear of rejection, third fear of public speaking, fourth fear of death. People would rather be in the casket than doing somebody's eulogy. Can you believe that, at a funeral?
Wow.
So you're absolutely right. And as children, we don't have that. It's great that your 15-year-old has that now, because a lot of 15-year-olds have already lost it. They're already fearing what people are thinking. And that's one of the biggest gifts we can give our children, the youth of today, is don't obviously care about people, but don't care about what people think of you. You have your own personal brand, your own personal reputation. That's really important. But don't let anyone else tell you who you can and can't be. That's for you to decide. And they learn along the way,
Yeah.
And plan A will work, and there might be another door and another door and another door, and that's cool.
Yeah, there might be sort of like an adjustment of plan A, but certainly if that's the North Star, that's the real big goal, then why not go for it, But it's amazing the difference, as you say, as you get older. That's a really good. Is that the actual fact then? That's how it is. That's proven though in that order.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that mad?
That really is.
And it's everything around you, the environment, which is so in business. I can't repeat it or emphasize it enough. Is the environment we create for our people is the biggest thing we can do as a leader. That environment of a culture of learning and growth, where I want you to challenge me, I want you to give me feedback. If I make a mistake, I'm going to put my hands up, because I know then everyone's going to learn from it. But you've got to create that environment. That's culture, and that's not an overnight thing, but that's what helps the businesses that are incredibly successful. They saw. Like Google did, I think it was back in, 2012, they did a 2-year project. And they looked at all of their teams, and Google's Google, they hire the best.
Yeah.
And they looked at 310 of their teams. And some of them were good, but some of them were outstanding. Like, really. They're like, what makes them? And so they did this study over 2 years, and they thought it was going to be talent, experience, all of this. And what it was, higher than anything else, psychological safety. That everyone felt safe to be able to say, I've got an idea. That they felt safe to say, I've made a mistake. That they felt safe to challenge each other, their leaders as well. It was psychological safety that made exceptional teams. That's huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even, I know it's great to have that culture to say that, okay, we feel comfortable in giving feedback, but to have that sort of improvement, or, that difference between the two, is crazy, isn't it?
It's really crazy. I love that though.
Yeah, you got me thinking now. That's I'm actually trying to think of my companies. I hope they were okay. So, obviously you said a gap between a good organisation and a great one is almost never strategy; it's leadership. So, is that based on that culture kind of stats? Did you base it on that, or did you kind of just naturally feel that, and then you've resonated so much with that sort of stat?
So that's come into it because we've done so much research on what makes outstanding, what makes great. So when we've worked with so many different individuals, CEOs, founders, companies, both here in Nairobi, in the States, and every time you work with them, you realise we all talk about strategy all the time. But before strategy, there are two really important pieces. The first is state. What state are we leading in, and what's the state of everyone in our team? I.e., are they using their prefrontal cortex, or are they using their amygdala? Are they finding solutions, or are they finding problems? Are they able to keep that sustained level of energy and consistency even when the pressure's on, or do they go back to the comfort zone? And the reason that people can keep going when it's tough is when they're all aligned to a purpose. Because when you're aligned to a purpose, then it's worth it. When there's no purpose, it's stress, it's overwhelm, it's burnout. So that alignment piece of what is all this for, that's huge. And then secondly, it's the story. So imagine this is your organisation. You've got a little box and it's your organisation here. And around that is the story you tell yourselves as an organisation. So it might be, this is the market we're going for. We can't go for a different market. It's uncertain times. People aren't buying. We can't put our prices up. We don't do it like that. We tried it. It didn't work. The story keeps it really small. So there's only a tiny little space for strategy. Instead, if we can make our story so big, going back to that North Star, that goal that's so huge, we're never going to hit it. The story is so large, there's all this big space for strategy. And that means we can think differently. That means we can innovate. That means we can put the strategy into place. But everybody's got to believe and know that this is what we're aligned to. And it's the impact, and we might never hit it, but that's okay, because we'll smash the goals because we're aligned to this. Whereas if we're aligned to a small goal, we're never going to be able to hit this massive impact goal. So state, story, then strategy. That's what makes the difference.
It's really funny you mentioned about the problem and the solution side of things, because you just get people that just always seem to find a problem with something.
Every time.
Yeah. So is that what it comes down to? It's just
it's not them, it's the amygdala.
It's amygdala, yeah.
It's
wow.
And there's another part of the brain called, I'm sure you've heard of it, and your listeners will, called the RAS.
Yes.
Reticular activating system, which is, it's like the Google of your mind. So if you typed into Google red cars, what would come up?
Yeah, of course.
Red cars.
Yeah.
And it's like, blue cars wouldn't come up. And it's like our brain, if we wake up in the morning and you stump your toe and you can't find a pair of socks and you have a row with the kids or the other half and you're, today's going to be a bad day, your RAS activates. And because there's so many thoughts flying around, it can't process them all. So it focuses in on what it thinks you want to see. So if I've said with lots of energy and emotion, today's going to be a bad day, the RAS will say, Penny wants it to be a bad day. I'm going to show her everything that proves to her it's a bad day. And that's what you will see. That's what your brain will focus in on. Yeah. Yeah, if you wake up and you wake up before the alarm goes off and you go for a run, you got your favourite breakfast in, everyone's smiling, great, and today's going to be a brilliant day, I just know it. And your RAS does that. At the end of the day, it's been a brilliant day. Yeah. And it's the way you train your brain. So people who are always finding problems or always angry or always anxious, it's because there's been a time in their life when they've been angry, they've been anxious, and they've only seen problems, and the brain just wires that way. And then you don't even have to think about it anymore because the brain is trying to conserve energy, so it just plugs it in. So that's what you want to think about all the time. You don't even need to think anymore. You just wake up feeling like that. And those people who will find solutions and happiness, you'll know them. Someone dies and they're like, but they had a great life. And you're like, oh, really? Because that's how they've wired their brain. They've chosen to be happy and see the positives and look for solutions all the time. And you are in charge of your brain. You can wire your brain.
How would you rewire it from, let's say, a negative way or perhaps a more safety way of thinking, finding problems, let's say? I'm sure they don't go out their way. It's just the way they are wired, as you say. How would you break that then? Is there a technique that you would use to break that?
So firstly, we call it a thought audit. So, every 10 minutes stopping and thinking, am I using the back part of my brain or the front part of my brain?
So the problem finding or the solution finding?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So if you're, and you can stop and flip yourself to be thinking about the positives. Start in the morning. The thing I do every morning is when I put the kettle on for my black coffee that I have like you in the morning.
Your breakfast.
And I switch it on. And as it's boiling, I will close my eyes and I will think of everything that I'm grateful for. And I'll say it out in my head what I'm grateful for. And it's focusing my brain on all the positives that are in my life. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some problems that come my way that day. And I'm not trying to say that life is perfect because it's far from it. But in the morning, if you can start your day with a ritual that literally protects you, it's almost like putting your body armour on. So when the problems come, they bounce off you because you can handle it. That's what I do. And everyone will have their own morning routine. Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning has a great 7-step morning routine in there.
Look, I've not
Miracle
heard that.
Morning, really
Okay,
good.
Miracle Morning.
It's called Savers, and he does it for 10 minutes for each one, so it's an hour. But the S stands for silence. The A stands for affirmations. So whatever you need that day. So I am the best leader in the world. Or I am, whatever you need.
I'm going to speak at Disney.
Yeah, I am the best speaker at Disney in the world.
Yes.
That sort of thing. V is visualising how you feel when you've achieved everything that you want to achieve, the feeling of it. You might not know what that is, but feeling that you feel fulfilled. The E is exercise, so exercising for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The R is reading, so reading for 10 minutes. And the S is scribing, so a bit of a journal.
Okay.
How am I feeling right now?
Yeah.
So that's how our worlds. But everyone will have their own.
Yeah, I think people have their own ways of doing things, which is absolutely great, of course, because everybody's different. But there's no but. It's just, okay, yeah, everyone has their own way. And there's obviously some clear proof that you're perfect example of this, like that you've adopted this and you've used these sort of affirmations and this positive way of thinking. But then look what you've done, as opposed to if you had that safety net around you, or sort of a more reserved way of thinking, looking for problems, you would have had that thought, but then also found 5 problems as to why it won't work.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have even taken that next step. You probably would have still been at that school at 35.
I probably wouldn't have opened the school. I'd still
Oh, who knows? If you, I suppose so. Yeah, if you had that way, you wouldn't even have the school. Yeah, that's very true. But I think with that though, you just think, okay, I know, like you said, I know something's going to happen. That's fine. That's to be expected. But I'm going to find a solution to it. And I think, like, I know people go on, and it's been going on for years, isn't it? I think probably more so recently. I think it's probably to do with the social media aspect of things. But it was a way of saying that. The morning routine. Everyone goes about the morning routine. You think, yeah, but there is some sort of
science.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a recipe to success of any kind, and not monetary gain. It could be anything. If whatever your goal is, even is to help a certain amount of people, or even to help another, sort of a country in some way. I think you've got to have that start, isn't it? It's like a reset, and you've got to start in the right way. Yeah. And that's what the morning routine is. Yeah,
it really does. And there's a huge amount on. I mean, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a health expert at all. But we do, when we work with CEOs and leaders and leadership teams, there's a lot of metrics, internal metrics that you can look at that help you to be a better leader, i.e. sustain performance, have decision-making clarity and capacity. And one of those is measuring your HRV. You probably know your heart rate variability.
Yeah.
You've got that.
And
it's the only way to track basically your resilience. So you might have 6 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 6 beats that go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're different. And the bigger the variability, the more capacity you have, more resilience you have. It's like a Formula 1 car. It doesn't go around the track going accelerator, brake, accelerator, brake. It goes really quick. Yeah. And that's you. If you can adapt quickly to stress and resilience, it shows that you are more capable of doing that. And you can increase that by more VO2, increasing your VO2, more sleep, the sleep consistency, the time you go to bed.
Yeah, circadian rhythm. I've realised that earlier on this year. That's really important.
Yeah, so those internal factors that we don't talk about enough have a massive impact as well. So that exercise, for me in the morning, is really important. Sunlight, is very different to being inside a gym to being outside. Makes a massive difference. So there are lots of things you can do to help your positivity, your energy levels, because that radiates and it's a magnet. And as a leader, that's what we need to have for everyone around us.
Yeah. Do you have some sort of markers that when you go into this, like when you're training a leader or you're working with a leader or any sort of person like that, do you have this sort of thing? Do you get them to do some tests beforehand? So like a disc profile report. When you do that, you go, right, okay, I know what type of person it is. Or I've got a good idea. I know how to speak to them. I know how they're going to speak to me, and so on. Do you do something similar to that with the HRV?
If they want to,
that sort of thing.
If they want to look at, we call it the Human Performance System,
okay,
which is our IP. Whereas looking at, most of our work is with the teams. Yeah. When we work with the teams, we'll do some specific work with the CEO, CFO, for them. And if they want to go down this route, I'll never force it on anyone. But if they are looking at themselves with a mirror, which is what we do, and say, yeah, I want to sustain it. I want to do it for as long as I possibly can. I also want to protect longevity, so that when I've decided I don't want to do this anymore, I've got a great life ahead of me as well. So I can be running around with my grandchildren and doing those things, or great-grandchildren. So, yeah, for those people, then absolutely, they either would have a Whoop or an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch, and we would track the VO2, HRV, and other metrics. We've got a whole system of metrics that we look at, and blood markers as well. So it goes in real detail.
So it's like real sort of like science behind it all, isn't it?
Everything that we do, because otherwise it's rah-rah.
Digging deep, yeah.
Whereas if you want to get, serious CEOs, we work with some incredible companies. They need to know it's science-driven, it's data-driven, it's real, it's facts. It's not us making stuff up. Yeah. It's not rah-rah or this week's phase. It's real, it's proven. Let's make a difference.
I love that. Brilliant. So the 143% operating system, talk us through that.
So, I hope that as a leader, Bradley, that you rock up every day at 100%, yeah? Because it's your business, you're 100%.
Yeah.
You're going to give the 100% of you wherever you go.
Yes.
Yet still we're exasperated that those around us aren't operating at the same level. It's frustrating, it's exasperating. And people think it's them or their team, but it's not, it's science. McKinsey, Gallup, they've done all the research in this, and no matter, even if you turn up at 100%, your team will only ever be 70% of you. There's a 30% transmission gap between the two, a 30% delta. Okay. So if you want your team to be 100%, you've got to rock up as the 143%, because 70% of 143 is 100. Now, normally when I say that, particularly in keynote, I can see a few people go, oh, I can't do any more. I'm at capacity. And I get that. You are. We're absolutely at capacity. It's not about doing more hours. It's not about doing more work. It's actually doing less. It's about being a true leader. It's about delegating really well so it doesn't bounce back to you. It's about empowering those people around you. It's about freeing up your time so you can actually do the bit that you should be doing, which is leading, strategizing, innovating, and coaching your team, because succession planning is the key to any successful business. And if you've not got the time to grow the business and grow your people, then you can't lead. But most of the time, leaders are in the weeds, particularly founders, because it's their baby, and no one can do it better. And they're brilliant at it, which is why they've done it. Or in an institution or an organisation, they've been promoted because they're excellent at the thing they were doing. So they can't help but go back in it because they're brilliant at it. But no, you need to be leading those people. But it's our identity, or we don't know how to delegate properly, or it's hard work to delegate. I might as well do it myself. But actually, we need to free up that time. So we go in and give people the tools so they can operate at the 143% level. They need to be the 143.
The 143, that's
143
amazing.
with BBB, we call it, which sounds very cheesy.
Okay, with BBB?
Brilliant beyond belief.
Oh, yes, BBB. Of course, yeah. It sounds like you just described my week. That's amazing.
What, in the weeds, or?
Just the fact of, I think probably every business owner, well, you would confirm, I don't know, but I think every business owner would probably say that their team don't work as hard as them. And that isn't to say that their team are not good or don't work hard, because I believe that all my team work hard, and some more than others, but I'm very fortunate. I've got a good team. I'm sort of, you're smiling at me. You're probably saying, "Yeah, I hear this all the time, Brad."
No. I'd be shocked if you hadn't got a good team.
Oh yeah. So I have, and I'm very, very fortunate. They do tend to go, what's the word? Like above and beyond for me. Yeah, they do. So, but sometimes I'm like, why can't you just catch up? Like, why can't you just see what I'm seeing? Like, and it is a bit of frustration. Certainly more now with like AI and all this sort of stuff, and I'm just on it all of the time, and you're like, okay, right, next, and you're like, okay, and then they're like, oh, Brad, hold on, you got to go back to basics. And I'm like, okay, no. And it's that sort of thing. So I do get what you mean, but then sometimes it's that whole thing of, I got drummed in. I had a business coach years ago from a company called Action Coach, which is Brad Sugar's thing. And their thing is to build a profitable enterprise but runs without you. So that was the end goal. That's the North Star. And whenever I used to see Brad Sugars, I used to go to some of his small, sort of like small events. And he would always just say to me, like if we're passing the hallway, I was like, okay, what's your date? And he'd want a date for me. And he'd keep asking me, I said, what are you talking about date? And he goes, what's the date you're selling the business? I said, no, I'm not selling the business. And he goes, no, but if you've got that in mind, you know that you have to work towards that date to have the business run without you. So either you can stay in the business and just earn a profit and you just pop in whenever you like, or you can sell the business. But if you go with the mindset that it's going to be running without you and it's turning a profit and it runs well, you have those options of whatever you want to do. And that's always stuck with me. But then whenever I feel like I'm getting back in the weeds, as you say, I'm like, oh, let's step back. But I think sometimes you have to, in a sense, to help your team. But I don't know. What do you think, though?
Do you know, I find it's really interesting, and you see it in schools more than ever. There's a difference between mucking in and putting your sleeves up when the team needs you. And, I'd be the first to go and unblock a toilet if it needed doing, or pick up some rubbish. But if I was unblocking that toilet every single week, there's a problem.
Yes, no, that's different.
I think you should show that and be happy to do any job within your business. And I think you should have done every single job because you know then what it takes. And there's something special, I think, about seeing your boss, the leader, in there. But when it becomes the norm that everyone's looking to you to bail them out, that's different. I think once or twice a year, you're shown to be doing it, but not every week or every month. That's too much. So, yeah, that's how I would look at that.
Yeah, that's very true, actually, because, and I'm fortunate enough that I don't do it often, because what I do is I tend to look at why I got pulled in, speak to them, are you struggling with everything? They might say, be having a bad day. In which case, okay, do you know what? We're in the trenches together. Let's just go for it. But then if they keep having a bad day and 2 weeks later you're still doing the same thing, okay, something's wrong now.
Yeah. Need something else here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It isn't just me digging in, it's just really funny you mentioned that. I'm like, yeah, that really does sound like my weeks. But no, it's pretty cool. So do you think that you build a business and it's almost like, so there was, I can't remember what it was. It was something like, was it personal brand? I can't remember what it was. Whether it was personal brand or business. It's like what is said. Your culture is what is said about you when you're not in the room. Mm-hmm. Is there any truth in that?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a loyalty to the standard that's really key. Not to you, but to the standard of the organisation. What's said about you when you're not in the room, but also when you're not there, that they maintain that standard or even increase the standard, that nothing dips. And I think that shows true leadership. And it's not about the person, because, like with Action Coach, it shouldn't be about you, because at some point you might not be there, but it's the organisation, the business, the impact they're having, that they're so aligned to the North Star and that impact goal, that they're all accountable to that outcome, that it means that no matter what, it's not going to slip. And when the pressure's on, that's when you really see it. So when the pressure's on, do people rise, or do they go into their comfort zone? Do they start cutting corners? Or are they always thinking about the customer, who it is that they're serving, and making sure it's to that high standard? So yeah, I do believe there's a lot of truth in that, a lot to be said about that.
I wonder if that's like a bit of a good marker, as you say, to see like the leadership style, but also the systems and processes that you set up to see if it works when you're not in the room, like you say, if it drops. Or
and always look, whenever you're pointing, you need to look at you first.
Oh, 100%.
It's if it's not worked, like you said, why hasn't it worked? Not blaming everyone. It's like, okay, what's happened here? What do we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Is of paramount importance. And systems, processes, things that you thought worked and they didn't when you weren't there. So there's something that you've missed. Yeah. And then the team will highlight it to you. It doesn't need to be you, but yeah.
Do you think there's any do you find with all the leaders that you work with and the people that you work with of building these big organisations, is there any consistent characteristic or traits that you find in these sort of people that you feel that, okay, when they do, like we said, the morning routine, do they all have a morning routine? Do they all work out in the morning? Do they all have this discipline that they just keep doing and showing up consistently every single day? Or can one of them be quite relaxed and just dip their toe in whenever they feel? Like, what are sort of the things that you find just show up all the time in a great leader?
I think that's a really interesting question, and there are, I think, like cycles of life almost. You know, you see the people that at the beginning of their career where they founded something and they're in it and it's that energy. And then I've got people that are exiting, but they've been there in a family business for decades and decades and decades, and they might not be in that line. I do find the younger leaders now, and when I say younger, I'm talking like my age. You know, they
28.
Yeah, exactly. And like that sort of middle-aged downwards, I think health and morning routine is much more talked about.
A lot more awareness around that now,
Huge
isn't
amount
there?
of awareness. Whereas I do feel older generation have, theirs was all about the socialising and the networking and the meetings, but actually it took a toll on their health. So I think we're learning from what we've seen. I think everyone's different. The business owners that I really love working with are when they do look after themselves, but they're doing that because they want to be the best leader for their people and their families. And they don't want it to come at a cost. And I really like helping people with that aspect as well. So, but yeah, a mixed bag, we're all different.
Yeah, exactly, that's it. And I wondered if there's different phases of life.
Yeah.
I had one time someone on here and they mentioned about phases of life, like the founder, as in you'll find in your life, and then the expert and so on. But it's at different, I don't know, probably 12 to 15 year phases and so on. And I wonder if perhaps that had some sort of I don't know, consistency with what they do in their life. Like you just said, you know, like obviously us, you know, in our early 30s, you know, like,
Love that.
Yeah, those that are older, you know, perhaps like you say, well, we're not so bothered about the fitness and etc. But yeah, there's so much more awareness to it now, isn't there? Really,
it's definitely changed.
A lot more
I
investment.
think that's what I was trying to say. Well, in cycles, like seasons of life.
Seasons,
you know?
that's a good
when you've
word.
got your spring, your summer, your autumn, your winter. But my thing is not leaving it too late. You know, that longevity and what you can do early doors, particularly with your VO2 max training, what you can do with that to have a massive increase in your later years. I want to be able to sit on the floor with my great-grandchildren. I want to be able to run around the garden with them. And that keeps me going with things. So, yeah, but we're all different. But I think there's definitely a new awareness, and I feel it's shifting.
There was one thing that I had a few years ago, and my granddad on my mum's side, he was very fit, super fit, swimmer, squash player. I think in his sort of like 60s, he had like I see pictures of him like, and he had like a six pack, like late 50s, early 60s, like crazy fitness guy. And the last few years of his life, he really deteriorated, and he walked up, and he's had a cottage in Brighton, and he literally walked up. Remember the old cottages? There was only about 9 steps in a staircase there, because it was so small, wasn't it? He'd walk up 3 steps and have to pause for a while to catch his breath and then continue the next step. He was a big smoker too, and a big drinker. And it was that, and I remember it because it happened years ago, and I still remember it like it happened yesterday. And that was a big realisation for me. I'm like, geez, like, you could live to your 100, but what sort of life have you got in your last 20s? What's the point? Yeah, exactly. So you think, I want to lead. People say, I want to live a long life. But you mean, but hold on. There's a caveat to that. Of what quality? Yeah. You know, you could be in a wheelchair when you're 70, you know, like barely moving. What, 30 years of that? No, you're right, thanks. But it's that sort of thing. But I think that's a great awareness around it now, because people talk about like the weightlifting and all this sort of the muscle building and so on. But I think it's good to have that awareness to it. So what you're doing with the VO2 max and all this sort of science behind it all, I think it's great to have that awareness to it. But I think, because I go to the gym now, and a hell of a lot more younger people in there now than what there was years ago, and both equal. You'd have like men in the weight section and women, let's say, on the cardio machines. Now it's mixed, men and women on both areas, you know. And I think that's where social media and the local, you know, so much information. I think that's one of the good things that's come of it, isn't it? It's bringing that awareness to it.
And I think when I was, you know, back in my youth, it was, you know, everyone was just out drinking and partying. You know, my children, they're at the gym. And I'm like, they're going for a walk.
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
it.
Yeah, so they completely don't drink. You know, not because they don't drink, but they just don't really want to. And it's a very different lifestyle, and they're much healthier for it. Yeah. But yeah, incredibly different to my youth.
In a good way, I think. Certainly in that area, anyway. To have that awareness is brilliant. There was I forgot what I was saying now. It was about the fitness stuff. Anyway, okay, never mind. I'll come back to it. So, where does AI play a part into what you do? Do you leverage it much, or is it more sort of like sort of like human to human basis, or are you able to leverage some of the tools that makes things better, like this sort of like scientific facts?
Yeah, as an organisation, there are 3 businesses that I look after, and are particularly brilliant beyond belief. We use AI a huge amount, just on our own processes, the team, everything, and just analysing data. My own data. When I look at my own health metrics and stuff, using that, and it's incredible. So it's so quick. So yeah, we use it a lot for our own business. The thing that we do in organisation is people need to be ready for change. And we are changing at such a speed in incredibly uncertain times globally. Like, it is literally, it's a roller coaster, talking about Disney. It is a roller coaster.
Just hooked on Disney.
I
was expecting you with the Mickey Mouse then.
Yeah, didn't get those Mickey Mouse. I was a bit upset, actually. Should have got them. So what you need is your people need to be ready. And they need to be ready for change, flexibility, adaptability. They need to be able to pivot at a moment's notice, to be able to use AI. So a lot of organisations, I read an article earlier, a global survey of CEOs, don't know whether you saw it, and it was saying that over 53% of CEOs said that the implementation of AI had zero impact on revenue. Zero. 53%. I was like, wow, yeah. But it is not about...
Would you say that they're doing it wrong then? Because how can
I think
be?
they've implemented it wrong. It's got to be about... We've got to be using the right... There needs strategy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the people need to be on board. And quite often what we're seeing is organisations putting AI in, but they haven't got the people piece. And we're the people piece. You've got to go in, and a lot of organisations are pulling us in now to work with their team to help them be ready to implement the AI throughout the organisation. Because if the team aren't ready, or if they're uncertain, there are 3 zones in life. You'll know this, but the comfort zone, stretch zone, growth zone, those 3. And if we'll come out of the comfort zone into the stretch zone because we're all excited about this new product, and then it all gets a bit hard and I'm not sure, and all those feelings and the amygdala fires up, and we go back into the comfort zone and nothing changes. And what that's like on the ground is you'll hear your team say, we talk the talk, we don't walk the walk. Nothing ever changes around here. We say we're going to do this, nothing happens. And what that does to staff morale is it gets lower and lower and lower. What we've got to do is get in there with the people, give them the tools to be able to accept change and understand how to implement the prefrontal cortex and how to ask for help and how to make mistakes and know it's okay. And if you don't do that, nothing will change. So it's the people piece that I feel is missing.
That's really interesting you say that, actually, because I have heard that, and we changed systems a couple of times, and on about the 2nd or 3rd time of us doing it, it was exactly that. We got that. We're like, we've tried this. I'm like, no, not the system. No, Brad, we've tried this same thing again. It didn't work. When are you going to learn your lesson? And it was all this sort of thing, but it was like, but that's really good that you break it down in that way. So let's break that one down then. So you've got the comfort zone, stretch, and growth.
Yeah.
So the idea is that what do you do as a leader or a company leadership team? You would explain where you want the journey to be, or where you're going, this journey, the vision, and then you would then get the team on board, try to get them on board as much as they possibly can, and have this open conversation. If you've got any concerns, etc., let's speak about it, and then implement this system or strategy. And yes, there will be a lot of topsy-turvy time, but still staying open and honest the entire way, and updating them daily if you have to, of progress and the journey. And then constantly, oversee those negative comments, etc., and have that open conversation with anyone that's still concerned. And then would you say if you keep doing that, you get then to the growth section, or is there more to it?
It's nothing to do with the AI. It's actually to do with them and their brains. They need to understand that when they have that negative thought, that's the amygdala firing up because they're coming out of the growth zone, coming out of the comfort zone into the stretch, and they need to know that that's that feeling, that worry, that concern feeling, actually that's excitement, and if we're not feeling that, we're not growing. So when you get that feeling of, that's actually good, because that shows we're growing. Now when you have that change in mentality, that's what needs to shift. So I believe there's a lot of work that needs to be done about neuroscience and behavioural psychology for people to understand their brain and why their human reaction is that. So we need to give them a process to basically operationalize human reaction. So human reaction is to feel this, but what you do when you feel that is this. So we've got a whole decision-making framework, because if you've got a massive North Star, huge, and to do that, you're going to have to implement AI, you're going to have to do this, all this
need
new
all
stuff.
the tools.
But you've got to start behaving like you've already reached that goal today. So
Yes.
it's like in the health world, if you want to lose weight or put muscle on, you don't wait till you get there to start acting.
I've already got a 6-pack.
There you go. Absolutely.
In my head.
Start working at it now, don't you? You're drinking like that person, exercising like that person, sleeping like that person, eating like that person from today to get that result. And it's exactly the same in the business world. So we've got to create the team culture and the behaviours and the traits and the everyday of how we turn up as if we've already done it. And that's the difference. That means that you can innovate. That means that you can accept new technology and know it's going to be scary, but that's okay, because the 100 million company CEO, they'd be going, yeah, well, we're going to do it. The 100 million head of HR would be, yeah, I've got this. Team, I've got you. Yeah. And it's that behaviour that we need to be doing today.
That's actually really quite powerful, to think that you've already done it, but act as if you've already done it as well, or got it anyway, or that person.
It's act your way to a new way of thinking is easier than thinking your way to a new way of acting.
Hold on, say that again.
So act your way to a new way of thinking is easier than thinking your way to a new way of acting. Believing's really hard.
So you would literally
just act like that person,
and then eventually your mind would just adopt that and say, well, you are now this person, this is your new identity. So
yeah, it is identity.
Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah, there's a part of the brain called the basal ganglia which holds on to your identity. So if so this always goes back to the North Star, but imagine that that I'm sure you do, but you run 5k, and then I said, okay, Bradley, at the weekend we're going to do 7k. You'd be like, yeah, okay. If I said, right, at the weekend we're going to run a marathon, you'd be like, and your basal ganglia would literally eject that 5k runner identity out, and it would flip to the prefrontal cortex and go, right, we've got to build a new identity, build new processes, systems to be able to be a marathon runner, that identity. Yeah. And it's the same with an organisation. If you want to have a massive impact, that's why you've got to have a massive North Star, so we change the identity of each of us as a team member and the team. And that's how we need to start acting from today.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. I've listened to this about earlier. So if someone's listening right now and they're trying to sort of like limit themselves, or they're sort of like their limiting belief, etc., what's sort of like perhaps the one thing that you could say? I mean, I think you probably just answered it, to be fair, but what do you think would be the one thing they could start doing today to get rid of that limiting belief?
Before anything, you've got to identify what that North Star is, but you have got to get yourself in the right state to do that. Because as kids, you'd go to school and you'd have your times table test or your spelling test on a Friday, and if you got 10 out of 10, you get a well done from the teacher and a well done from mum and dad. But if you got 3 out of 10, you'd be told off on what's going on. So our brain is wired to set very small goals, because if we hit them, that's our happiness, how good, great, or smart we are. That's our happiness. Yeah. But as business owners, we can't be like that. We've got to know that it's not about how good or great or smart we are. It's what have we learned and how can we be better. So you've got to be able to change your state. So whatever it is, we've got a whole toolkit of how to do that. But it might be running, it might be exercising, it might be having amazing music on in the morning, something that makes you in the right state, and then think about, okay, if I could do anything in the world, what would it be for my business? What would the goal be? Like massive. Don't even worry about how we're going to get there. It doesn't matter. But what's that massive impact goal that would really get me out of bed in the morning? Start with that.
That's really good. With the when you mentioned about being in the right frame of mind to understand your North Star, I think that's just as valuable, isn't it? Because you could be in, let's say, for instance, a down day, and you think, oh, okay, you know what, let's go back to the running analogy. I hope I can just do 5K. But then you could have a really good day, like listen to some great music that's uplifting or some piece, motivational piece. And now I'm saying, do you know what, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon. Same person, but it's different mindset. And that now becomes your North Star. So that's really, interesting you mentioned that, because I think that's just so true about when you go in to do it. It's almost like, you know, when some people go, I'm having those away days where they go away for, I don't know, down the beach or something, I'm going to work on my goals or whatever it is. It's just setting that environment, isn't it? Setting that mindset ready so you can really see with clarity where you can head to and what you're capable of as well, I think.
Otherwise, you're going to limit your belief.
Definitely.
And each of us here in this country can achieve whatever we want to do. We can. That there was just so much resource. We've got so many great people around us. Yeah. There's nothing stopping us apart from us. That's it.
I love that you mentioned this country. You've mentioned it a few times. Is it because of passion, or is it because of something that you see, or is it just that you've seen a part of the world that shows that we actually haven't got it too bad?
I naively used to think that anyone in the world could achieve anything they wanted to if they had the right mindset. And that's really naive, because there are people not that far away from us, you know, who are literally missing. Can I miss the bomb this morning? Can I make sure I don't die today? Well,
that'd be their North Star, I suppose, isn't it? Sadly.
I mean, it's just like, and you can't believe that's happening in today's world. So I believe it's part of my growth in that I used to be, you know, everyone said, oh, you're positive all the time, positive Penny, and
positive Penny.
Taking the mick, I think. But in certain places in the world, that isn't possible. And I think you've got to appreciate, we should appreciate what we have here. And I do see a lot of poverty in different countries, and people are stuck, what they're born into, but through no fault of their own, or in a world where a war breaks out through no fault of those people, or in a war zone, they haven't got anything compared to what we have. So I feel for us, we're here, you know, you've got a beat in your heart, you've got air in your lungs. It's our duty to have as much impact as we possibly can. It really is.
I think that's amazing. I think that also shows your sort of like a world awareness. Obviously, you've travelled all over the place as well, so I think you've learned and seen a lot and brought that back into your own attitude and the way you see things, because you've mentioned it a few times in the country, and I love that. It's really nice. So we've got a bit of a quick fire round.
Okay, exciting.
So here we go. What's the one thing you'd tell them to do first thing tomorrow morning, the listeners?
Attitude of gratitude list. What are you grateful for?
Good. And a book you read and listen. Of course you do. Of course you do. You've built a school. Of course you do. A book that changed how you lead.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Stephen Covey's 7. I always get the title wrong. 7.
7 Habits of the Highly Successful. Yeah, that's it.
Love that one.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, that one.
There's a workbook out for that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There's also one called The Productivity Ninja.
Oh, I love that one.
I really like that. And maybe not how I lead, but how I make sure I'm not distracted. That had a massive impact on me.
There was another book that came out that was very, very similar, and it was called Getting Things Done. And then I read that, and then I read Productivity Ninja, and it's very similar in the sense of time restraint and so on and so on, selection. And I just seem to have really resonated a lot more with Productivity Ninja. And although it was pretty much the same thing, but it's funny, isn't it? You can read 2 books.
Yeah, I just really like the way it was written.
Yeah.
It really appealed to me.
Yeah,
but also,
me too.
Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. That's
yes.
Impact.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good one. One word for a great leader.
One word.
One word, or one word. Actually, one word that you should have said described a great leader.
Humble.
Why's that?
Because I think you can achieve great things in life and have great impact. I think you need to remember the people along the way that helped you get there. And the reason you're doing it, and you can meet leaders who forget that and become not very nice people. And I think if we can stay humble and stay true to integrity and why we're doing what we're doing and the impact on who we're serving, rather than being about the ego.
That's really good. I really enjoyed this, by the way. It's been amazing. So, best advice you've ever been given?
So it's from my father, who passed away in the pandemic, and he brought me up with one mantra, and it was, if you have a solution, you don't have a problem. And that is the best piece of advice ever.
That's really good. Do you think that, when some people say that, so if someone's got a problem and you or someone's got a solution. So therefore, that person with the solution to that problem might now be a lot more calmer, and the person with the problem is let's say, a bit anxious and stressing out, let's just say, because they can't see the wood through the trees, where the person with the solution can actually see it and say, oh, I don't know what you're worried about. Here's the solution. And it's only when they share that they suddenly, oh yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But do you think that's there's some logic behind that? Because the only reason I say is because I've got a couple of members of the team, obviously, and they said to me, oh, Brad, it's never any problem with you. I was like, yeah, because I already know the solution. So I said, what you're going through, I've already been through, because you're now doing what I used to do.
Yeah, been there.
So, and it's almost like they said, oh, you're like burying your head in the sand. I said, no, I'm not. I just know the solution. So, like, just tell me what the problem is, and I'll either guide you in the right way, or here's the solution. So I think that's really good, because I like to find solutions in my team. I said to them, don't just come with problems. Try and come with a problem and then a solution.
Yeah.
Give me your version of the solution. And some of them struggle. I now know why. And I think it's just really good, isn't it? Because if they're able to solve it, like it's that old thing. I just asked my own question. You're like, it's similar, isn't it?
It really is.
Kind of keeps you a bit more calmer, I think.
And there is always a solution, because there's always someone to ask for help. And I used to at school, still with the team, if you've got a problem, fine, come to me, but you have to have 3 solutions. And we'll talk through those 3. And it might be that one of your solutions works. It might be that I've got something and you've got something. It's a hybrid. Or it might be that I've got something you've not thought about, only because of experience. But it builds that solution muscle, because they need to be able, they're your future leaders. They've got to come with the solution, because at some point you're not going to be there. And they've got to have that solution. So we need to be teaching everyone around us to think of and come up with their own solutions to the problems they're facing. And then let's help them, guide them, like you do with your team, through that.
Well, I think that's a perfect ending.
Oh,
That's brilliant.
thank you.
So, Positive Penny, where can people find you then if they want to get in touch with you?
So on LinkedIn, or Brilliant Beyond Belief. Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best bit, and Brilliant Beyond Belief is my website. Yeah, love working with teams and getting that next level. We work with really successful teams that want their next chapter to be even better than the last. And that's it.
Brilliant. Love it. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. It's been
really
brilliant.
pleased.
I've
Me
also
too.
learnt so much, so thank you.
No, I've loved it. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks.